Okay, so let's just pick up just a few lines before that, just to quickly go. Ki yasser Rav Dim Yomer Rav Yochanan b'shasha Livyasan Raiv Motzi Hevel Mipiv Umartiach Kol Meimo Shebimitzula. When the Livyasan is hungry, then he has breath that comes out of his mouth, and the bubbles of all of the water in the world, starts to bubble. The water in the deep. Shenemar Yartiach Kisir Mitzula. It boils like a pot. The Mitzula, the deep waters. Vilmale Machnis Rosho li Gan Eden. And if the Livyasan wouldn't have put his head in the Gan Eden, Ein Ko Birya Yechola Lamod Berecho, then no creature, no living being would be able to withstand his smell. He has a terrible smell, but then he goes into Gan Eden and he smells beautiful. Shenemar, as it says, Yam Yasim Kamer Kacha, that the Yam makes it like perfume. Uvishah Shetzame, and when he is thirsty, Oset Tlamim Tlamim Bayam, he makes furrows in the Yam. Shenemar, since it says, as it drinks, it makes furrows, because it says, Acharav Yair Nasiv, that after him there's a path of light. So when he drinks a lot, and he makes a lot of furrows from taking all the water out of the deep. Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Ein Tehom Chozer Le'esano, and the water does not return to its original amount. At Shivim Shana, it takes 70 years after the Livyasan drinks from the Tehom for the water to return to its original amount. Shenemar, as it says, Yachshov Tehom L'Seva, it'll go back to its Seva, Ve'ein Seva Pechusa Mishivim, and Seva is not Pachos Mishivim. We are on the fifth wide line on Ayin Hamid Aleph. New topic. Amar Rabba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu laso seuda lat tzadikim mi besaro shel Livyasan. In the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make a seuda for the tzadikim from the basar of the Livyasan. Shenamar, as it says, Yichru alav chabarim yechetzuhu bein kenaanim. They will feast. The chaverim will feast on it. Ve'ein kira ela seuda. When it says the word yichru, it means a seuda. Shenamar, as it says, vayichra lahem kera Gedola vayochlu vayishtu vayishlachim vayelchu el adoneim v'lo yasru od gedudei aram lavo be'eretz Yisrael ve'in chaverim ela tamidei chachamim. So you see that kara gedola, kira gedola is vayochlu vayishtu. It's a feast, and the chaverim are the tamidei chachamim. Shenemar, as it says, hayosheves ba ganim chaverim makshivim lekolei hashmiini. These are the people who listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They listen to God's voice. So you see that the Talmidei Chacham are the ones who get to eat from the basar of the Livyasan. V'hasha'ar, and it's not clear from the Rishonim who the sha'ar is. It means the sha'ar could be the rest of the stuff, the rest of the basar, but who gets it? Who gets the rest of the basar? V'hasha'ar mechalkin oso ve'osin bo schora b'shuke Yerushalayim. They're going to do schora in the shuk of Yerushalayim, but just not clear who's going to do schora. So I think some of the Rishonim point out the people that support the Talmidei Chachamim, the other Talmidei Chachamim will get some of it to be able to do business with the leftover meat in Yerushalayim. Shenamar, as it says, Yachsuhu bein Kananim, that it's going to be split up amongst the Kanam. Yechetsuhu bein Kananim. Bein Kanamnim ela Tagrim, and the Kananim are the Tagrim, they're the workers. Shenamar, as it says, Kanaan biyado moznei mirma la'ashok ahev, that the merchants have weights that are mirma. La'ashok ahev, they love to steal. But you see that the word Canaan over here is a merchant. V'bais emo, or you can learn from here, mehacha, asher sochareha sarim, kin aneha nichbadei aretz. Again, you see that the sochrim and the Kanaaneh, which are the honorable of the aretz, either way, you see that the words sochrim and Kanaanim are interchangeable. And therefore, you see that the Talmidei Chachamim will go ahead and will get from the basar of the Livyasan, and the other people will be split up in the shuk of Yerushalayim. The rest of the basar will be split up in the shuk of Yerushalayim. For Amar Rabba Amar Yochanan, again, anytime we do Agadata, there's deeper lessons here, but we don't have time to go through all of them now. But if you read the Marsha here, you will find many interesting insights. For Amar Rabba Amar Yochanan, Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu laso sukkah lat tzadikim me'oro shel Livyasan. Famous Gemara, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make a sukkah for tzadikim from the ore, from the skin of the Livyasan. Shenamar, as it says, Hatmalei bisukos oro uvitzeltzal dagim rosho. It's interesting, as the Aleph points out, the actual pasuk doesn't spell sukos with the samach; it spells sukos with a sin. But I will fill with the sukos his skin. The sukkos of tzaddikim will be with the skin of the Livyasan. Zacha.
This is the Yehiratzon.
What?
This is the Yehiratzon we say when we say goodbye to the sukkah.
Right, correct. Zacha osin lo sukkah. It's hard to imagine sukkahs right now by looking outside. Zacha osin lo sukkah. If you're zocha, so then we make a sukkah for the tzaddikim. Lo zacha osin lo tziltzal. If they're not zocha, then they only get shade. That means they're going to use the oro, the skin of the livyasan. If you're a real tzaddik, then we're going to make the whole sukkah out of the livyasan. If you're not a tzaddik, then we're just going to make the top part out of the livyasan, the shade part. Shenamar, as it says, uvitziltzal dagim rosho. Zacha, if you're on the next level, so the highest level, they're going to make a sukkah out of the thing for you. The next level, they're just going to make the shade part out of the livyasan. Zacha osin lo tziltzal, lo zacha osin lo anak. If you're on the next level down, so you're still pretty high, but then they're only going to make for you a necklace. Shenamar, as it says, va'anakim legargi rosecha. You're going to make for your neck. Zacha osin lo anak. Lo zacha, if you're not zocha to even get a necklace out of the ore of the livyasan, osin lo kmiya. Then they'll make just the amulet, the piece that goes on the bottom of the necklace, over there, not the entire necklace. Shenemar, as it says, v'tikshirenu l'narosecha. You'll tie it for your narosecha. V'hasha'ar, and the rest of the ore of the livyasan. Again, the rest of the basar went to the shukim of Yerushalayim. The rest of the ore is porsar HaKadosh Baruch Hu achomos Yerushalayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will spread over the walls of Yerushalayim. V'zivo mavhik, and its splendor will shine. The splendor of the walls of Yerushalayim will shine from this ore. Misof ha'olam v'yat sofo, and everyone will be able to see it in the entire world. Shenamar, as it says, v'halchu goyim la'oreich u'milachim l'noga zarcheich, that the goyim will see the light and the brightness of your shine. That is the ore of the livyasan and the basar of the livyasan. Weiter. V'samti kadkod shimshosayich usharayich la'avnei ekdach v'chol givuleich la'avnei chayfetz. So the pasuk says, Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani, what does it mean that I will make your walls out of kadkad, your stone? Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani, pligi trei malachi birikia. There were two malachim in heaven who argued about what this means. Gavriel u'Michael. For Amrila, and others say, Trei Amorai b'Ma'arava. Uman Inun, who argued, Yehuda v'Schizkiya b'nei Rebbe Chia. Chad Amar, what's this stone that the walls of Yerushalayim will be made out of? Shoham. V'Chad Amar Yashpeh. Amar Lu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what the walls will be made of? Lehave Kidin Ukidin. It'll be like this one and like that one. It'll be both Avnei and Shoham. And the Rajman points out it's very interesting. If you look up a little bit, where it says Kedinu Kedin, about 10 lines up in the Rashbam. Kedivrei zeh kedivrei zeh v'hainu kad kod mishoham v'yash betivneh. Listen to what he says. V'afal pi shemikra zeh kadam livnei Rebbe Chia tuva. I don't understand. God said that the wall is going to be made out of something. They're arguing what it's going to be made out of. Then they're saying, okay, it must be it's going to be made out of both. But God decided before you had your machlokes what it was going to be made out of. So what does it mean that God changed his mind based on this machlokes? That the nevuah was that God will build it out of whatever later on the machlokes is. That's what he'll build it out. So if one Amarah says this and one of the Amoraim says this, then God will make it out of those two things. Fascinating pshat, again, much deeper, but just a very interesting Rashbam. Zak the Gemara, the end of that pasuk, as I read, Usharayich la'avnei ekdach, your gates, so that's the walls, and the gates will be made out of hewn stone. Ki hadiyasiv Rabbi Yochanan v'kadarish, asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahavi avanim tovos umargilios. He's going to bring special stones and pearls, shehem shloshim al shloshim. Again, these are the actual gates for the walls. And he's going to have them that they're going to be 30 by 30 amos. V'chokek bahen eser al esrim. He's going to cut an opening in these big stones, 10 by 20 amos. Umamidan b'sharei Yerushalayim. And he will place these in the sha'arim of Yerushalayim. It sounds like either these will be the sha'arim or he'll place them in the sha'arim. But it sounds like he's taking these big stones and he's cutting a hole in them. And those, the way it sounds like, will be the gates of Yerushalayim. Ligleg alav oso talmid. So there was a Talmud who was sitting there and started mocking Rabbi Yochanan. Hashta kibiasa ditsitzla lo mashkechinan. Today we can't even find small stones, small precious stones and pearls the size of an egg, of a small bird. And you're telling me kulei hai mashkechinan that eventually they're going to be stones that are going to be 30 by 30 amos? That's crazy. Liyamim iflikas finasa bayam. So one day this Talmud was on a ship. Chazam malachi asharis diyasve. Either he had a dream or he saw in the ocean that the Malach Asharis were sitting v'kam minsere avanim tovos umargilio shehim lamed al alamid v'chakuk ben eser b'rom esim. And they saw that there were malachim that were actually using these 30 by 30 stones, and they were carving out a 10 by 20 opening. Amr lahu hani laman. What are these for? He asked them. Amr leisha asa Kadosh Baruch Hu lamidan b'shar Yerushalayim. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to put these in the Sharei Yerushalayim. He's going to put them in the walls of Yerushalayim, or they're going to be the Sharm of Yerushalayim. Also, so he went back to Rabbi Yochanan and says, Amar lei, Drosh Rebbe, keep teaching my Rebbe. Lecha na'e lidrosh, kasher amarta kein raisi. I saw exactly what you said. He didn't like that. Amar lo, Reka, you're empty. Ilmale lo raisa lo hemanta. If you didn't see that, you wouldn't have believed me. Milagleg al divrei chachamim ata. You one who makes mockery of divrei chachamim, nasan eino bov and nase gal shel atzamos. So he looked at it and he became a pile of atzamos. So next time I say something that you don't like, be careful before you say so. Zak the Gemara. Meisvei. Ask the Shaila. Gemara, the pasuk says, Va'olech eschem komimiyus. And I will go and I will lead you upright. Rabbi Meir Omer Masayim Ama Kishtei Komos Shel Adam Harishon. So we're going to ask a question on the fact that the Sha'arim, the gates of Yerushalayim, were 30 Amma stones, 30 by 30, cut out 20 by 10 in the middle, a hole 20 by 10 in the middle. How's that possible? It says that I'm going to walk you very high, and Rabbi Meir understands that this means Masayim Ama Kishtei Komos Shel Adam Harishon, that the walls, seemingly, of Yerushalayim will be as tall as 200 amos, which is double the size of Adam Arishon. Adam was 100 amos, a few hundred feet, and the walls of Yerushalayim will be 200 amos. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Meya Amma Keneged Heichal V'Kadlav. It'll be 100 amos, the walls, a little bit shorter, but still tall, like the Heichal of the second Mikdash. Shenemar, as it says, Asher Banenu Kinetiim Migudalim, our sons are like plants that grow, binurehem, binosein kizavios mechutavos tafnis heichal. And our daughters are like the zavios mechutavos, like the heichal. But what do you see over here? Either way, what do you see? Our daughters are crafted in the form of cornerstones. So what do you see over here? You see that the walls of Yerushalayim will be either 100 amos or 200 amos. So how are the sha'arim of Yerushalayim going to be 30 amos tall? They have to be at least as tall as the walls of Yerushalayim. So the Gemara, ki ka'amar Rabbi Yochanan, lekoi de bezika. No, when it talks sha'arim, it's not talking about the actual walls. The walls of Yerushalayim and the gates of Yerushalayim will be really, really tall because the walls of Yerushalayim are, because the walls of Yerushalayim are going to be 100, 200. So what does it mean when it says you're going to have 30 and you're going to have a cutout of 20 and 10? That's the chalonos in the walls. The actual, again, I don't know exactly how to portray this. I don't have a picture. Maybe there's a picture in there, but chalonos are the windows. So the windows will be, but again, I don't know exactly what that means. It means there'll be a cutout that'll be 30 by 30, and you'll put this big stone in there, and then within this big stone, there'll be another cutout that's 20 by 10. That's what it sounds like, because it sounds like there's going to be a 20 by 10, unless you're just taking...
It's the window for the light.
It could be a window for the light, but again, but what's the actual mitzias? Are they making a hole in the wall of the chomos and then putting this special stone in the wall, and then this stone itself will have a cutout, it sounds like, of 20 by 10. That's what it sounds like to me. Sounds like it'll look very nice. Okay. Zak the Gemara. Amar Rabba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. New topic. Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu laso sheva chupos l'chol tzadik v'tzadik. Every tzadik will have 7 chuppos. Shenemar, as it says, Ubara Hashem al kol mechon har Tzion. God will create on the site of Har Tzion v'al mikreha, and on its assemblies, which we'll get to later. Anan Yomam, there'll be a cloud during the day. Ve'ashan, smoke. V'noga, light. Eish lehava, a flaming fire. Laila, all of these things will be at night. Smoke, light, and a flaming fire. Ki al kol kavod chuppah. Everybody who has kavod, i.e. a tzaddik, will have a chuppah. Melamed shekolach v'echad osel HaKadosh Baruch Hu chuppah lefi kvodo. Ashan b'chuppah lama. Why do we need the smoke over here? In Olam Haba, why do we need the smoke by this chuppah? Amar Bichanina shekomi she'enav tsaros betalmidei chacham ba'olam hazeh mismalos enav ashan la'olam haba. Anybody who is stingy with talmidei chachamim and doesn't share their money with talmidei chachamim in this world, his eyes will be filled with smoke in the next world. Ve'esh b'chuppah lama. What's the sign of having a eish on the chuppah? Amar Bichanina melamid shekol echad ve'echad nechoa mechupasa shel chaver. Everybody's going to feel burned from the chuppah of their friend. Why? Because everybody's going to look around and see that their friend's chuppah is bigger than theirs. Not that they're going to be jealous, quote unquote. In a bad way, they're going to be jealous in a spiritual way. Like, I can't believe he had such a big chuppah. Clearly, he deserves such a big chuppah because of everything that he did in this world. And people are going to look around and say, oh, I wish that my chuppah was big. I wish that my maisim in this world or in the last world had been as great as that person. And then this is either the Gemara talking or the person itself talking. Oila la'osa busha, oila la'osa klima. It's going to be such a great busha and such a great klima when we see other people and what they were able to accomplish, and seemingly when we just see ourselves and compare to what we could have accomplished, it'll be a busha, it'll be an embarrassment and a destruction. Kayotze bedavar, similarly, Ata Omer, it says in the pasuk, V'nasata mehodcha alav, leman yishmu kodas meisal. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu that I will give to Yehoshua some of your splendor, in order that the Jewish people will listen to him. V'lo kolodech, I'm not going to give you all. I'm not going to give him all of your splendor. Zekenim shebeoso ador amru. So that's where this famous idea came that they said Pnei Moshe k'pnei Chama. The face of Moshe is like the sun. Pnei Yoshua k'pnei Levana. But Yoshua is only like the moon, which doesn't have its own light. It just reflects the light of the sun. Oila la'osa busha, oila la'osa klima. What's the oila la'osa busha? That in such one generation, in such a quick amount of time, we could have such a yerida from Moshe to Yoshua and Kal Vachomer for the rest of the generations. Zak the Gemara, new topic. Amr Bichama Bar Chanina. Eser chupos as HaKadosh Baruch Hu la'adam harishon began Eden. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made, again, I don't know exactly, you have to see the Marsha for what the symbolism is this, but God made 10 chupos for Adam in Gan Eden. Shenemar, as it says, Be'eden gan Elohim hayisa kol even yikara misuchasecha. Every single special even gave you a sukkah. What were they? Count. Odem, Pitida, V'yalom, Tarshish, Shoam, V'yashpa, Sapir, Nofech, Ubarkas, V'zahav. Those were the 10 things. Okay. Zak the Gemara. Marzutra Mar Achadesrei. There were really 11. Why? Shenamar Koleven Yakara. Because you didn't count the beginning. Koleven Yakara is another Evan. Any special Evan, and then the list of 10. Says the Gemara, how special were these chupos? Amr Yochanan V'garua Shebekulan Zav Dekachashiv Le Basof. The last one listed is Zav. So that means if the last one listed was Zav, that's the least important and the least impressive of all of the stones. So the other 10 or the other 9 were so much greater than Zav. Imagine what they must have been like. Talk the Gemara. My meleches topecha. So the end of that pasuk says, meleches tupecha unikavecha bach biyom hibaracha konenu. On the day that I created you, so the meleches tupecha, the drums and the holes, the nikavim, the holes of the body of a person were created on the day that I created you. What is God talking about? Zak the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu lechira melech tzor. Wasn't such a good guy. Chira melech tzor. What did he say to him? Becha nistakalti ubarasi nekavim ba'adam. On the day that I created you, I looked at you and I saw how disgusting you were, or the day that you are today. But when I looked and saw what you would be like eventually, and when I created man, it's because of you that I made little holes in the bodies of men so that they can go ahead and get rid of all the disgusting stuff in them. I.e., not such a nice thing God is telling him. And others say, what's he saying about the holes? Because of you, I put misa on Adam Arishon. The Rashma has one interpretation. I think an easier way to interpret it is, what does that have to do with holes? Well, holes are holes in the ground to bury people. So when I looked at you, I decided to make holes, not in a person. The first pshat was I made holes in a person so that they can get rid of their waste, which is what reminds me of you. But the other pshat is that I made holes in the ground, the kavim in the ground, to bury people because of you and because of who you were. We're going to have misa. If there could be people like you in the world, then we're going to have death in this world. Mai va'al mikraha. What does it mean when we said before that Hashem will build on Har Tzion and on its mikraha? What are the mikraha? Amar Rabba bar Rabbi Yochanan. What are the assemblies? Lo ki Yerushalayim shel olam hazeh, Yerushalayim shel olam haba. Fascinating. It's perfect for Yom Yerushalayim. Not like this world is Yerushalayim, is Yerushalayim in the next world. Yerushalayim shel olam hazeh kol arot sel lahalos ola. You want to go to Yerushalayim today? Anybody who wants to go can go, assuming that certain people get out of the airport and let you get on the plane and land in Yerushalayim. But Yerushalayim today, anybody who wants to go can go to Yerushalayim. However, Shalom Haba in Olin Ela Mizumanin La. Only those that are invited will be able to go to Yerushalayim in the future. Beautiful. Not just if you have an apartment doesn't mean anything. You have to be worthy of using your apartment, or else people like me will get your apartment. V'amar Rabba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. I don't have an apartment. I guess I got to borrow your apartment, Mendel. Thank you. V'amar Rabba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Mir Hashem, we should all be zocha to own apartments and to be zocha to be mizuma and to be invited to live in those apartments. V'amar Rabba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Asidin tzadikin shenikran al shemo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the future, tzadikim will be called on the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenamar, as it says, Kol hanikra bishmi, anybody who's called in my name, v'lichvodi b'rasiv, they were created for my kavod yitzartiv avasisiv. I created them. So where do you see over there? You see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to call v'lichvodi b'rasiv, anybody who's give him kavod during his life, during their life, which are the tzaddikim, then kol hanikra b'shmi, God will call them with his name. Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Yochanan, Gimel nikra shmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu be'Elohein, tzaddikim, as we just said, u'mashiach v'Yerushalayim, tzaddikim hada amran. Mashiach disiv, Mashiach will be called God's name. Where do we see that? B'yamav tivasha Yudav Yisrael yishkon lavetach, v'zeh shemo asher yikra'o Hashem tzidkenu. This is the name that God will call Mashiach. That's where you see Mashiach. Yerushalayim, where do you see that God will call Yerushalayim his name? Because it says, Saviv Shmonasar Elef, V'shem Ha'ir Miyom Hashem Shama. Al Tikrei Shama Ela Shma. Shem of Hashem will be the name of Yerushalayim. Amar Balazar Atidin Tzadikim Sha'omrim Lifneim Kadosh, Kederech Sha'omrim Lifnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. Fascinating. In the future, just like Tzadikim in this world, we say Kadosh before the angels, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. In the next world, the angels will say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh about the tzaddikim who were in this world. Shenamar v'haya hanishar b'tzion v'hanosar b'Yerushalayim. The leftovers in Yerushalayim, the tzaddikim Kadosh ye'amer lo kol ha'kasuv la'chayim b'Yerushalayim. All of the people that are holy, the tzaddikim, the angels will say about them Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. V'amar Rabba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. New topic. Asar HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'agbias Yerushalayim gimel prasos lamala. Now this Gemara is a little bit hard to understand. If you have any insight, you can share it with me. But it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the future will lift Yerushalayim 3 prasot high. It sounds like, again, I don't know what the next world means. I don't know if everything's happening in heaven. I don't know if it's going to be happening in this world when Mashiach comes. Unclear. If anybody's been there, let me know. But I don't know exactly what's happening, but it sounds like wherever Yerushalayim, wherever the world is going to be in the next world, whether it's in this world or up in heaven, Yerushalayim will be 3 prasot on top of it. Yerushalayim will be much higher up. You won't travel across the ocean to get to Yerushalayim. You'll travel up in a spaceship to get to Yerushalayim, or of the like. Or as we'll see in a second, you won't even need a spaceship. Shenamar, as it says, V'ra'ama v'yashva tachteha l'mishar binyamin ad mekom shar rishon ad shar apinim. So V'ra'ama will be lifted up and will sit tachteha. Now, tachteha usually means underneath it. But over here, the Gemara understands, my tachteha, kitachteha. It will sit in its place high up, the way that it was in this world. And again, the way that it's explained by the Rishonim is that she'll be lifted, Yerushalayim, to a height equal to the length of the area that she now occupies. Which again, the Gemara seems to be saying is Gimel Prasot. So again, just as an example, take this piece of paper, this is Yerushalayim, and it's Gimel Prasot. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the length and the width, and we're going to make it like this. And it's going to go this high up. So it might be even bigger physically, quote unquote, or whatever that means. But again, you take the width, and that's how much higher. So if the rest of the world is here, this is what Yerushalayim, the size is now. So Yerushalayim, this is the rest of the world. This is the size of Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim will be either this size or bigger, but it'll be this amount of height higher than everything else. So it'll be here when everything else is here. But the amount of height is the size that Yerushalayim actually is in width and its length today. Zok the Gemara. How do you know that it's width today, that the length of Yerushalayim today is 3 parsim? Again, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I don't know what the modern measurements are. I don't know how much 3 parses are in modern measurements, but it'd be interesting to see how big is 3 parses and how that compares to the size of Yerushalayim today. So it'd be 12 miles. How big is Yerushalayim?
Less than 12 miles.
It's not 12 miles. It could be
8,000 kilometers.
No, but it could be 18 kilometers. But it could be maybe. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean from one side to the other. It could be the entire.
We don't know what the extension.
We don't know what the extensions are, but it's not so off. So if you talk about 12 miles, it sounds like it'll be wherever the world is in the next world. You'll have to go 12 more miles on the exit to get to Yerushalayim, up, not down. So you won't necessarily need a spaceship to get there, but it'll be 12 miles.
I hope the highways aren't snowy.
Sak the Gemara, V'shema tomar yesh tsar lalos. But maybe there's going to be, so this is the answer. How do you get there? There's going to be a tsar lalos. Today it's hard to get to Yerushalayim sometimes, or back in the day of the Gemara, today you can fly. It was hard to get to Yerushalayim. Now it's going to be 10, 12, it's going to be 12 miles higher than everything else. It's going to be a pain to get there. Sak the Gemara, Talmud Lomar mi eile, says the Gemara. Sorry, I'm just reading from the second Gemara because I can't read from this. Mi eile teufena v'chayonim el arubo sehem. That's what it means, that it's going to be like a like a cloud. You're going to fly like a cloud, and like a Yonah that goes to its nest. So if you're zochet to go to the Yerushalayim Shel Mala, so it's interesting because we always say Yerushalayim Shel Mala. It's not just Yerushalayim Shel Mala. It's the Yerushalayim Shel Mala, which is Lamala from all of the other things that are Lamala. Mala means higher up. We always say the Yerushalayim Shel Mala is the Yerushalayim that's up in heaven. So now the Yerushalayim in heaven, based on this Gemara, is higher than the regular things in heaven. It's 3 miles or so. It's 12 miles higher than everything else. And the way you'll get there is you'll either fly like a cloud or you will go like a Yonah. Amar of Papa, Shma Mina, therefore we see also, Hayeva Tlosa Parse Midlay. I don't exactly know how we see this, but they learn from here that a cloud is at an altitude of 3 parses, 12 miles. Seems like a cloud is much higher than 12 miles, but maybe 12 miles from the sky, from the beginning of the sky, that's where the clouds are. Amar Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa. Bikedesh Kadosh Baruch Hu lasis Yerushalayim b'mida. Fascinating. Kadosh Baruch Hu originally, when he created Yerushalayim, wanted to make it a fixed size and say this will be the size of Yerushalayim forever. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Va'omer on Ha'toholech. So they said to Hashem, "Where are you going?" Vayomer Eli, and he said to me, Zechariah says, "La moed Yerushalayim liros kamarach b'kama arka." I'm going to measure Yerushalayim to see how big it's going to be. Amr Malach Hashar Tzmei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ribbono Shel Olam Harbe Krachim Barasa B'Elamecha Shel Umas Olam. You created a lot of cities, a lot of countries. V'lo Nasata Midas Arkon Midas Rachman. And you never said it can only be this big and it can never be bigger. Yerushalayim Sheshimcha Besocha. Your name is in it. Umikdashecha Besocha. And the base of Mikdash is in it. V'Tzadikim Besocha. And there are Tzadikim in it. Atanotim B'Mida. You're going to give it a set size and say it can never get bigger than that. Miyad. Immediately the pasuk says, "Vayomer Elav Rutz Daber Lanar Alaz Lemor Prazot Teshev Yerushalayim Merov Adamu Behema Betocha." You're right. Yerushalayim will always be prazot. It'll always be scattered and open, and there will be so many behemoths and so many people in Yerushalayim. It will be big forever, and it can it'll continue to get big. It doesn't mean that the behemoths are the people. No, that's not what it means. Amar Reish Lakish. No seriousness. Asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahosev al Yerushalayim elef tafaf ginoos. Now this is very interesting also. Interesting, I got it today. So it's going to take instead of telling you a number, it's taking words, and it wants you to take the numerical value of the words, and that's how many they're going to be. So in Yerushalayim in the Asid, they're going to be elef, 1,000 times the word tafaf. What's the gematria of tafaf? 169. So they're going to be 169,000 ginoos, gardens. Elef kafal migdalim. 210 is kafal times 1,000 is 210,000 towers. Elef litzoi birnios. There's going to be 146,000 castles. Amazing. Elef ushnei. 1,002 times Shiloh, the word Shiloh, which is 345. What's that? 345,690. Tut faros. Fortresses. That's how many there'll be in Yerushalayim in the future. Achas ve'achas havik sipurei b'shavasa, and all of them will be like sipurei in its prosperity. So if you think that Yerushalayim is amazing nowadays, wait till you see the hundred of thousands of gardens, towers, castles, and fortresses that will be in the Yerushalayim of the Asid. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yossi. If you're going to compare it to the tzipori when it was in its prosperity, ani ra'isi tzipori b'shavasa v'hayuba Meya ushmonim elef shukim shel mochrei tzike kedera. Amazing. There were 180,000 shukim that sold pot stew in Tzipori b'Shavasa. Must have smelled very, very good. Says the Gemara, another pasuk, v'hatzlaos tsela el tsela. Shalosh ushloshim pa'amim. Uvaos bakir asher labayis latzaot saviv saviv lios achuzim v'lo yu achuzim bikir habayis. What does this mean? Says the Gemara, Mai shalosh ushloshim pa'amim. What does it mean that the chambers of the temple will be 33 times? Amar Ablebi, Amar of Papi, Mishum Rabbi Yeshua desakne im gimel Yerushalayim hein. Well, it depends. Yerushalayim in Olam Haba will either be 3 times the size that it is now, or it'll be 30 times the size that it is now. What does it mean? 33? What's it talking about? Im gimel Yerushalayim hein. If Yerushalayim, again, how high it is, we already said. It'll be gimel prasot, higher than everything else. But in terms of the size, it'll either be 3 times the size of Yerushalayim today, and if it's 3 times the size of Yerushalayim, kolachas v'achas yesh b'shloshim medurin lamala. It seems like there'll be houses, because each house will have 30 stories high. So it'll either be 3 times, what is it, 33? It'll either be 3 times as big as it is today, and each house will be 30 stories high. Each building will be 30 floors high. Fascinating, skyscrapers. Im shloshim Yerushalayim, and if it's going to be 30 times as big as it is today, then kol achas v'achas yesh b'shlosha midurin lamala. Then each one will have 3 stories high. So it'll be 3 times as big. It'll have the same amount of space, I guess. 3 times as big, with 3 times as wide and 30 stories high, which should have plenty of room for the Jews. Or it'll be 30 times as big, and each house will be 3 stories high. Very, very fascinating. Itmar, new conversation. Svina. So we spoke in the beginning of the parak, I think a few dapim ago, about what's included when you take a svina, what's included with it, like we spoke about a sud and a bayis, etc. But now the question is, how do you go ahead and acquire a svina? So you have to do mashicha on the svina. How much mashicha you have to pull it? How much you have to pull it in order to acquire it? Idmar svina rava markevan shemashach kol shehukana. Once you pull it just a little bit, again, we're not necessarily talking about a big cruise liner. Once you pull the boat a little bit, so lemaisa you acquire it. Shmuel amar lo kona at sheyimshoch es kula. You need to pull the entire thing. What's the difference? So according to Shmuel, what it means is, according to Rav, if this is your svina, so you just pull it an inch, it's fine. According to Shmuel, the back needs to be where the front was before. So you need to basically displace the entire length. So you need to go up to here. 1 length of the boat. That's how you acquire it. Zak the Gemara, lema kitanai. This is a similar machlokes that we have elsewhere. Kesad b'misira. How do you go ahead and acquire an animal b'misira? As the Rashbam points out, if you have a big animal, then you acquire it with misira, by basically taking hold of part of the animal, because you can't necessarily pull it. If you have a small animal, so then you acquire it with meshicha, by pulling it or making it walk towards you. So Zak the Gemara, Kesad b'misira. How do you do misira? Achsa b'talpa. Either you touch its feet, its hooves, bisa'ara, for the horse, its hair, what's it called again? I'm sorry? The mane. Be'okef shaleha, the saddle. Bishlif shaleha, if it has a load on it that's strapped onto it, you can touch the load. You can basically grab onto the load. Beprumbia shebepia, obviously this is all assuming that the mocher, you can't just go over to anybody's horse and do this, or anybody's animal. Assuming that he's selling it to you, this is the way that you acquire it. You grab the bit in its mouth. Bezuk shebetzavra, you grab the bell on its neck. Kana, that's how you acquire a behema gasa. Behema gasa literally doesn't mean wild, it literally means big.
In neither of these cases, you don't go on it.
You don't go on it, you're just literally grabbing it. You're grabbing it. And you don't even move it. You just grab onto it, and that's how you're konet. Kate said b'mashicha, how do you do mashicha on a small animal? Korei la v'hiba, you call it and it comes to you. Or shehikisha b'makal v'ratzta lefanav, or you hit it with a makal and it runs. Well, how much does it have to come to you, or how much does it have to run? Kevan she'akra yad v'regel karna. Once it lifts its foreleg and its, what do you call it? Hind leg, then lamaisa, it's going to be kona to you. So it needs to just lift up 1 leg in the front and 1 leg in the back. Rabbi Acha v'amila Rabbi Acha omer, Rabbi Acha says, at shetahalech malei komasa. It's not enough to lift up its front leg and its back leg. It has to actually walk malei komasa. It needs to actually pick up all 4 legs. Zak the Gemara, so where do we see this machlokes? Leima Rav de Amar Katanakama. So let's say that Rav, who says that you need to just move the sfina a little bit, says that the animal just needs to pick up its front leg and its back leg. So Leima Rav de Amar Katanakama, Shmuel de Amar Krebichi Acha. Shmuel, who says that it needs to pick up, you have to move the entire sfina, the entire length of the sfina, he would say that you have to be moshech, the animal, the entire thing. They have to pick up all four legs. And the one that says you just have to move the sfina a little bit would say that you just have to go ahead and pick up the front leg and the back leg, or it has to pick up the front leg and back leg in order to acquire it to you. Amal Charav, Rav will say no. You said you just have to move the sfina a little bit. I can still agree that by the animal it has to pick up all four legs. Why? Because by animals the afagav the akra yad v'regel beduchta kaima. Because what happens if the animal picks up its front leg and its back leg? It doesn't go anywhere. So you didn't do a mashicha. So there it's not going to work unless it actually walks on all four legs. Aval sfina kevan denadaba porsa nada lakula. But the sfina doesn't have to go the entire length. At 1 inch, it moved. The whole thing moved. The back went 1 inch forward. It didn't go to the front. But Lamaisa, that's enough. That's what Rav will tell you. So I can draw a distinction. By the sfina, it could move a little bit. But by the animal, it needs to actually walk on all four legs a little bit. Ushmuel Amar, and Shmuel would say the opposite. Ana de Amri afilu kitana kama. I, who say that the animal needs to pick up all four legs, can still hold that by the sfina, you just have to move it 1 inch. Why? Ad kan lo kamer tanakama ela bebale chayim. Dekevan demei ikra demei akra yad v'regel idach lemei kaima. Because when the animal picks up the first two, when it picks up the back leg and the front leg, where's it going? It's not picking it up and putting it back down. It's picking it up, and now it's going to pick up the other leg in the front and the other leg in the back, and it's going to start walking. So it's the beginning of the process of it walking. It's not just going to put it down. The other argument is that he picked it up, it will put it down. It's not going to put it down. He's going to pick up the front leg, the back leg, and then he's going to start walking. Aval svina imashach lakula in ilolo. But by the sfina, you can't just pull it a little bit. You need to pull it the entire amount. Fine. I'll be giving the daf tomorrow.